Three, two.
And we are live. Good evening to everyone. We're live. Thank you very much. For those of you who've decided to join us today live on our Sunday live discussion, where we will be talking today about silent killers, the importance of trying to make sure you're managing your health. This month we are doing the Health is Wealth time. So at this point we're going through a series on trying to build the holistic wealth equation. But before I get into the intro, I would like to extend a good evening to my co-host, Wupe, the Mindpreneur. Wupe, how are you doing?
I am doing well. Excited to be back once again. Last week was so good. I'm looking forward to this week again to learn about these silent killers and hopefully build some new good habits because, like tonight's conversation, I will be attacked many times, but I'm ready.
And for those of you who are joining us, please write in the comment section your name, where you're joining us from. Please feel free also to tag a friend, tag somebody who you think this conversation is important to, because it's important for all of us to talk about how to live a long and prosperous life. I think it is the book of 3 John verse 1, which says, "Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in good health, just as in other parts of your life." And this is an important verse because what we try and talk about here is not just wealth in one sector of your life. We're talking about wealth in a broad sector. We're not talking about just happiness. One of the things we really stress is wholeness, being whole, being in many other places, because what ends up happening to a lot of people is you do so well in this department, but then unfortunately 3 other departments of your life. So I always stress to all the financial freedom fighters and all the people who follow that your life is broken into 6 departments. I call those your 6 F's, and that is your faith, your focus, meaning the work that you do, your finance, which is the money and wealth that you accumulate, your fitness and your food, and also your friends and family, and finally your flourish, your mind, how your mind does as well. And that's a very important thing. And today we are in the fitness and the food component, where we're talking about the healthy parts of people's lives. Now, just to give some background before we introduce our guest, is that 60% of millionaires, and I've kept on citing this statistic. This is done by Fidelity's research on millionaires. Fidelity being one of the biggest global millionaire managers around the world. 60% of millionaires find themselves worried about their health. They find themselves worried about their weight, their health, and the health of their loved ones, and most importantly, the cost of health. Now, one of the trends we are alarmingly seeing in Zambia is the rise of non-communicable diseases, things that are actually threatening to take and to stress the lives of people through and through. And unfortunately, what we have seen is that the fastest growing causes of death in this country, it's no longer things like HIV or bilharzia or things like that, or diuretic diseases that we thought. It's now things that can be preventable most of the time, and it's related to our nutrition and our lifestyle. The fastest growing killer actually in this country is now hypertension. It has grown by 60% of where it was in the past decade. We've seen heart disease rising as well, cirrhosis rising as well, stroke. We're actually even seeing people at very young ages. I lost a friend to a stroke in 2021, and he was less than 40 years old. So we're actually losing people to things that we could be managing. And what we've also found is that in people's latter years, the illnesses they're battling with are also more expensive. So what we don't want is for people to spend 20, 30 years on a journey building wealth, saving and investing, only to have all that money handed over back to the healthcare system for things they could have prevented, and they could now actually start becoming better. And also to also avoid these things also being a burden on the healthcare system. The healthcare system is already struggling as it is to deal with the communicable illnesses in society. Now, on top of that, the things we could have avoided and what we want to avoid is people getting ill. And now we've got these other things we have to now start battling in our healthcare system. So it's from a holistic point of view that we want to be a wealthy nation. But in order to be a wealthy nation, we must be a healthy nation. That is one thing I want everyone to take away from this month. In order for Zambia to be a truly wealthy nation, we must also be a healthy nation, because we don't want the gift of wealth to then bring the curse of ill health. And with that, today we've introduced our guest today, who's Dr. Elipilious Chibwaya, who has been a staunch advocate for dealing with non-communicable diseases, and he goes with the strong hashtag fear salt, because he actually has been talking to people about the simplest changes we can make in our lives and in our diet to make sure that communicable illnesses do not become the worst part of our latter years, and that all the wealth we build up, and as I'm talking to my financial freedom fighters, becomes it. So if you have a friend with hypertension, if you have hypertension in your line, and we all know somebody in our family has it, and we all know we do, this is a conversation you would like to really get in touch with. Dr. Chibwaya, good evening to you, and how are you doing? Sorry, Doc, I think you're on mute.
Good evening, Mr. Mutwale, and good evening. Are you able to get me now?
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, good evening, Mr. Mutwale. Good evening, Upe, and good evening to the viewers and everyone who is following us live on Facebook and any platform connected. It's my pleasure to be here, and I'm really thrilled and very optimistic that this is a very good platform to discuss some of these things because, like you have stated, the greatest wealth somebody can have is the health. Everything else is secondary. The primary need of a person is health. And it's good that we're here discussing with some very ambitious people who are striving to make sure they make an impact in this country. People want to improve their lives. People want to build a legacy for their families and themselves. And it is very important that we address some of these things that if they are to attend to them, indeed it can prolong their lives and it can make their efforts they're putting in a worthwhile and also impact our generations to come. So thank you very much for having me here.
And with that, Doc, and I'll be handing over to Whoopi now, but I think just to give an introduction before we get into the main conversation, Doc, who is Dr. Chibwaya? Where did he come from? And most importantly, where did this passion for the Fear Salt campaign come from? Sorry, Doc, I don't know if you're still there.
Th- Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that important question, Mr. Mutwale. And yes, I'm here. Are you
I
able to
think there's
get
a
me?
bit of a lag.
Yeah, just a little bit of a lag. I don't know if maybe we could just, for this moment, sir, maybe if we could just turn the video off just for a moment. Maybe that'll give you some leeway.
Me, are you able to get me?
Yes, there's just a little bit of an interruption. Yes, but we can.
Mr. Mutwale, are you able to get me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. So it's a very important question, and I'll begin by stating that, Mumba, when you are growing up, you see people you love so much get affected by certain problems, certain challenges. You can barely do nothing about it because you don't have any technical know-how. You don't even understand what is happening. I'm speaking this because I'm coming from a background where I lost a very dear uncle who suffered from diseases. Now I do understand, and I've seen that if only had certain information about this disease, these diseases, and we undertook certain steps, we could have saved their lives. And so many people out there are dying every day because of very seemingly small information that if they were to get it, they can actually save their lives and actually continue making the impact they have been making in people's lives. I once worked at the National Heart Hospital, uh, a hospital that is specialized only for cardiac related problems. And in my time there, one thing I noticed is an increase in people coming in with diseases related to hypertension and undetected hypertension, leading to heart failures, leading to strokes, leading to all these complications. And if you find out from these people, you find that where they're coming from, they had a history of undetected hypertension, which if they knew all these end organ damages wouldn't have been caused in the first place. So I'm very passionate about this problem because one, it is very preventable. Hypertension is a very preventable disease. Most of the non-communicable diseases are very preventable. And for the people who are already sick, they are very manageable. So it is what has triggered my interest to say, what can we do about this? How many people can we give this information to save so many people, prolong lives, and also uh, steer lifestyle changes, not only in us, but even the young ones who are coming after us, who can adopt certain lifestyles that are going to help them live longer.
Okay. Okay.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Doctor. I just wanted to get a bit of background, also just as a way of getting to know you a little further. What do you have a specialization? I heard you talk about you worked in a heart specialization hospital. Is that your specialization after your general med? And just how long have you been in the medical arena?
Okay, yeah, so just to get back, I think to give an introduction, my name is Dr. Elipilious Chibwaya, and I'm a general medical doctor, not a specialist, a general medical doctor and a public health and preventive healthcare advocate. And right now, I'm currently working at the Zambia National Public Health Institute as a public health officer, trying to give support to strengthening the public health security of our country and various works related to also the advocates that I mentioned earlier, which have taken up to ensure that I add something, I add a voice to the already pending problems in the public health space. So I think that is Elipilious Chibwaya in a nutshell.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're so grateful to have you. Yeah, over
Doc,
to you, Kumba.
just so let's get into the meat of it, because I think people who are listening here are people who are dealing with or have a family member who have one of these non-communicable illnesses. Now, according to the Washington University Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, they found that the four fastest growing killers in Zambia, and what we call the causes of death, because we looked at the leading causes of death in Zambia is still HIV, but the cases of HIV causing mortality are declining in this country. People are learning to manage it. People are learning to live with it. People are also learning to prevent it, because even the cases are starting to reduce. But what we've seen as we've now managed things like HIV, neonatal disease, respiratory illnesses, diuretic illnesses, we've cleaned our water, we've managed to put a lot of prevention into life. We haven't paid attention to the changes in our diet. And as a result, according to this, stroke cases are up, in terms of causes of death, stroke deaths are up 58.6%. Hypertensive deaths are up 60.6%. Cirrhosis deaths are up 34%. And heart illnesses, and it's called asymmetric heart disease, is up, ischemic heart disease is up 19.3%. And all of these have actually even moved up in their ranking. The non-communicable illness is actually moving down in ranking, and the communicable illnesses are moving down in ranking, and the non-communicable ones are moving down in ranking. So these four are actually some of the main ones I just want to get an introduction to. docs, things like stroke, hypertension, especially these two. What are they, and what's causing this rise in our society? Stroke, heart disease, hypertension. What's causing this rise in our society?
Thank you very much. The statistics which we're actually currently talking about, these are very accurate statistics that are actually bringing out certain things which the public health space might not be speaking about as much as it deserves, in that some of these diseases, they are actually claiming more lives than the diseases that could have been maybe receiving more attention right now. Uh, Among the biggest contributors to these diseases, number one is a shift in our diet. The shift in our diet, and we're getting to adopt certain diets, which we'll discuss in details as we go along in this program, which are actually now predisposing the population, the general population in our country, towards some of these non-communicable diseases. I'll begin by what you have mentioned, stroke. You know, stroke in the time in the past, stroke used to be a very rare occurrence in the patient. Right now, we're seeing stroke numbers increasing. It's now very, very common by people, even young people. You find that having stroke, things like hypertension, things like diabetes. In the past, they were known to be mostly diseases of the old, you see, and others are known to say they are maybe diseases of the rich. But right now we see young people developing this. What is the biggest problem? What is the biggest problem? The biggest problem, we need to understand, why are they tagged first to the rich? Why are they tagged to the odd? Number one, the odd have a predisposing factor in the cells begin weakening. When somebody is growing, is 20, 30, the immune system is able to fight, is able to withstand some of these toxicities that we might be exposing them to. But as somebody crosses 30, 40, the health begins declining. The capability of the body to fight, to stand, begin declining. Not only declining, but also the increase in the toxicity of what we are taking in begins mounting and becoming more than the body could handle. I'll begin by one thing which you earlier mentioned and introduced, which is salt intake. You know, the issue of salt is a very serious issue. Like you might be aware, I'm very passionate about this issue because it is a problem that isn't being talked about. Number one, I need to mention that in the country right now, Zambia sits at approximately 34.9% prevalence of hypertension in the country. So if you collected 100 people, you will find that out of them have hypertension. And out of this population, over 46% don't know that they have hypertension. They are living with it, but they don't know that they do have hypertension. So you find that it is a problem that is out there and very few people know about it. And it is now what is leading to increased cases of stroke, because stroke is a complication of some of these lifestyle diseases like this. What is the biggest problem? Zambia right now takes salt intake is about double the recommended amount of salt an individual is supposed to take in a day. WHO recommends that an individual is supposed to take salt of 5 grams. So this 5 grams salt translates to about 2,300 milligrams of sodium.
Okay.
Are you able to get me?
Yeah, I think we've just gotten you back now, Doc.
Mr. Mutwale, are you able to get me? Are you able to get me?
Yes, we are. We're able to get you. Please
Yes,
continue. Yeah, we
please
can.
continue.
Hello, am I still audible?
Yes, you are.
Am I still audible?
Yeah, it looks like the internet is lagging again.
Okay, so I think when we get Dr. Chibwaya back, I think he might end up just going in and out for a second, but I
Yeah.
think some of that is rather alarming to everyone.
It is. It is.
Um, the fact that we're already taking in double the amount, and I just
The
actually
amount
wanted
of
to read.
COVID.
So which is double?
Thank you. I think we've got him back. Thank
There
you.
we go. Yeah.
Doc, are you back now? Okay, yeah. So
Oh,
he'll
we
be
lost
coming
him.
back just
He'll
now.
have to log in.
Okay. Yeah, so he'll log in again. So actually, here's what he was saying, Ben. I think he's just coming back now. Is
Yeah.
that stroke deaths actually were number 7 in Zambia. Now they're number 3. They're the
Wait, say that
third.
again.
Stroke deaths used to be the 7th most prevalent cause of death in
Now
Zambia.
it's number
They're now number
3.
3, just in the space
Wow.
of a decade. And I think we've got Doc back now. But
Yeah.
just in the space of a decade. Doc, I don't know if you're back with us now.
Yeah, I think we have him back.
Yeah. And if you have any questions in the audience, those of you who are watching, please feel free to ask questions about any of this as well, because it's very important to you. But Doc, you were bringing up some alarming statistics about our sodium consumption, which has
Which is
actually been in
double.
line with some of our sugar consumption as a country. So please continue. I think that was something that's enlightening to all of us. Your mic is still on mute. Sorry, Doc. Your microphone is on mute. Okay.
Yeah. What was
So
interesting to me though was just listening about how when I was exploring what he was saying and my mind is racing, is how the age factor has a thing, right? When we used to think back in the day that people who are hypertensive are people who are rich or people who are older. And I think it's alarming again that it's coming down to the younger generation. But also an interesting factor or something I didn't know. I mean, I know that when we cross age 30, there's a lot of changes in our bodies, but I didn't know that our cells were actually weakening. I thought, did you know this? I didn't know this.
that's why we
I
talk to
didn't know, like
doctors.
myself. That's why we thought I didn't know this. This was news to me. And also increased toxicity, that it's easier the older we become to store the toxins. But I guess that's what Muya was talking about last week as well. Welcome back, Doc. Can you hear us? Dr. Chiwaya, can you hear us?
Thank you. My sincere apologies. I think I
No
really have a
worries.
bad network here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
No, we
fine.
appreciate it. We'll struggle through it and we can hear you and we are learning. You were just explaining to us how Zambians, we use double the recommended amount as per the World Health Organization. So before I lose you, I'll hand back over to you.
Okay, thank you. That was what we're talking about. The levels, the salt intake in our country is a big problem right now. It is a big challenge that needs to be addressed. And if not addressed, we are likely to actually lead statistics in the near future in the numbers of cases with hypertension, with these non-communicable diseases, and our system, healthcare system, cannot be able to handle this burden that is likely to result from this. The reason why in the past we never used to have this increase in numbers is basically because we had very limited sources of salt. The only source of salt you Bupe, when the day ends is what you have added in your food when cooking. But right now, according to available research, the biggest source of our salt, over 70% of the salt that you take in a day is coming from already made meals from processed foods and also just natural foods before you even cook them. So the 9.5 grams we're talking about, you find that before you even sit on the table to eat your food you've cooked, you've already hit the maximum and you're already in double or even triple. So which is a danger, because every day these processed foods are increasing on the market, and the levels of salt that are being added in these foods is unregulated. For a business person who is into business there, they are concerned with the food, with selling. If something can sell, that's fine with them. No matter how much danger it could be out there, as long as it's selling, people like it, they'll keep selling. But it is up to us as individuals to understand how much salt am I taking in a day? What foods should I avoid to take to prevent some of these lifestyle diseases? So it is a point that addresses why we are seeing increase in these non-communicable diseases. The foods we're eating, the content, the unregulated contents in these foods is the biggest contributor.
Yeah.
Sorry, Doc.
Love
Just
that.
to add to that. So yeah, now and I'll give this to you just now, Lopez. He
Mm-hmm.
actually mentioned processed foods. So I've got here a list of what they call the 9 deadly salt carriers from the CDC in the USA, and they found that it's foods such as deli meat. In other words, those whenever you go and buy sausages from a shop, Hungarians, those things, they're already packed full of salt. He says pizza is one of the biggest things. So as you people are busy chowing on pizza, remember that the bread itself, the layers, the covers, the spice, it's full of salt. Shawarmas, they had burritos here, but the Zambian equivalent is things like shawarmas. Our shawarmas are packed full of salt. Savory snacks such as chips, these corn snacks that we like eating,
Crisp.
packed full of
Yeah.
salt. Chicken that's already been cooked, fast food chicken is actually another one that's seriously packed full of salt. They talked about burgers and eggs. People who eat a lot of egg, because I see like even at the marketplaces, you see guys who are selling boiled eggs, and you just see them like dousing the egg in salt. So I understand where Doc is coming from. That the
Yeah.
accessibility of it's almost like the democratization of salt has almost normalized the salt
Mm.
related illnesses that we thought were the buana illnesses, because fast food is cheaper, it's more accessible, it's everywhere. It's no longer that a hungry lion is just in an uptown neighborhood, it's everywhere. It's no longer that a pack of crisps are only in a shop, right? They're in every Tundemba. There's all these things as well. Shawarma stands are everywhere. So, Doc, has the prevalence of the fast food and the processed food industries, even into the high density areas, added to this salt craze that's happening? I think, yeah, there we go. Sorry, Doc, we were just asking about. Yeah, I think he'll be back. He'll be back in a moment. Hey, this is the craze of Zambia. I don't know what
Yeah,
your
yeah,
thoughts are
yeah.
on that.
Yeah, I think 100% it definitely does, and we can't avoid it. Do you remember us growing up in Zambia? Like, I don't even remember having a hungry lion every 2 meters or even 1 meter. I think I might have been a little older by the time the first time I saw a hungry lion around. But also for me, I had the advantage in that I grew up around medical personnel. Both my parents worked in the hospital, taught, so everything we ate sort of had, you have to have vegetable, don't use too much oil, don't use too much salt, don't take too much sugar. But yeah, so that was my advantage. But for sure, that definitely contributes. The fact that I can just, like, right now where I live, I have a mall right here. So it means I have donuts, I have coffees, I have everything, fries, everything you've mentioned on the list is just 5 minutes away from me. All I just need to do is drive out in like a minute and I have that. So I definitely do think that it contributes, but it would definitely be interesting to hear Dr. Chiwaya's perspective from the medical front. But yeah, I definitely do think that it could
And
cause.
as we get him back, I mean, look, he did mention also that these are unregulated amounts of sodium that we're
Mm,
taking in, and these are unregulated amounts of salt that we're taking in. And I think he's coming back just now,
yeah.
and hopefully you'll be able to answer that question. So I'm thinking
He
when
did
you go to
touch
a
on
fast food,
accessibility. Mm.
yeah. So, Doc, as we're giving that point of all these foods that we now have access to, what are your thoughts or your take on, as in addition to what you were saying about the things we now eat in our diet changes?
Can you hear us, Dr. Chiwaya?
Sorry, Mr. Mutwale. Maybe just repeat the question.
I was saying, what are your thoughts on the changes in our diet? I've mentioned all these fast foods that we now have access to, and the things that we call the great salt carriers. Is this been the big
Can you can
change that's
you
been happening?
can you kindly repeat the question?
Sorry, Doc, are you able to hear us?
Can
Yeah,
you
there's a
kindly
lag.
repeat the question? I didn't get the part of it.
Okay, I was saying, with all these changes, such as shawarmas being available, fast food, all these quick fast food snacks, and all and I think we've lost him again. All these crisps. I think I'm talking to the air again. Yeah, once he gets
Yeah,
back, yeah,
we'll
once we
get
get him
into
back,
it. Yeah.
yeah.
But you
So
know
to
what I'm
everyone, sorry.
curious about? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Continue.
Yeah, I'm curious about what you remember, like when we spoke with Mia last week, and we're like, so what is happening in my body when like these things are happening? I'm interested again to hear the science when there's hypertension. What's going on inside my body? Is it veins constricted? Is my heart pounding? Because sometimes that's how you know that there's actually a problem. Because he said there are some people who are living with hypertension and they have no idea that they have it. So I'm curious about the actual science behind it.
Mm. Well, and once we do get the doc back, and I think
Mm.
just as we said, some of the other things that I'll point out to here, and I know everybody may think I'm being Mr. Doomsday, but that is the reality right now, is that not
Yes.
only is it causes of death that we're finding related to high blood pressure, what was
Mm.
also located was causes of disability. So people's inability to continue work and regular life. The
Mm.
five fastest growing lifestyle causes of disabilities or risk factors. It's no longer,
Mm.
people used to think it was unprotected sex and things like that. No,
Mm.
the number one fastest growing risk factor is being overweight.
Mm.
105% of the cases causing death and disability. And overweight has gone up. It's gone up from ranking number 11 as the number 11th risk factor to number 7 risk factor. High blood pressure has gone from number 7 up to number 6. It's grown by 52%. 52% increase in high blood pressure causing death and disability, sugar related, poor diet, and alcohol abuse. So we have Doc back here.
Mm.
Doc, hopefully you can hear us now.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you very much, Doc. So we were just getting your views on our new diet and our new fast food lifestyle. How much is that playing a role in our salt intake?
So that is playing a very huge role. Forgive me, I'll have to just put off the camera. Maybe it can help
Yeah,
with the network.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's fine.
that's
Thank
fine.
you.
That's all right.
So it is helping greatly. Are you able to get me?
Yes,
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 we
Doc.
are.
No, we can get you perfectly. Yes. Hello, Doc. Please continue.
I think there's a bit of a lag still.
Yes.
The woes of technology.
It'll get better soon, people.
It will get better. We have faith. We trust that it will.
Are you able to get me? Madam Bupe.
Yes, we are. Yes, we're able to get you. Can you hear me, Doc? I'm able to hear you loud and clear. You can go ahead. Can you hear me?
Okay, so unfortunately, and I think people just have to understand that Doc actually travels a lot, so we may catch
Mm,
him in an area where signals may be off. But I was saying that lifestyle changes that we actually are getting towards are things such as being overweight, number one, number two, high blood pressure, number three, sugar consumption or sugar related illnesses. Number four is
mm,
poor diet, and number five, alcohol. So you can see that all of this is related to our food. Like almost
mhm,
everything that we are dealing with is related to our food. So when I went through, as I said, the fidelity study on millionaires and their wealth, remember what they did was they studied happy millionaires and unhappy millionaires. In other words, people who are enjoying their wealth and people who weren't enjoying their wealth. And they found the number
yeah.
one stress that led to not enjoying your wealth was health. It was poor health. It was actually the
Mm,
number one indicator of not being able to enjoy wealth. So I'm going to go through like some of the things they've pointed here is that less stressed millionaires are less likely to be managing disabilities or illnesses for themselves or a loved one. Stressed millionaires are two times more likely to have a personal physical illness or a disability or that of their counterpart. And when they don't personally have a disability, stressed millionaires are still more likely to live in the house with a person who has an illness or a disability. Okay, so already it's
yeah.
not even just about you, it's also about your loved ones. So when you're talking about
Around you.
salt consumption, you got to think about them. Stressed millionaires have fewer experiences with serious illnesses. Less stressed millionaires. In other words, happy
Mm,
millionaires. Unhappy millionaires are 35% of them have had a serious illness at some point in their lives, and they are also dealing with somebody in their home who has got an illness. And at the same time, they're less stressed millionaires are more likely to turn to professionals when dealing with things like this, while stressed millionaires likely don't have even access to professionals or they have ignored going to seek professional advice on health related issues.
You know what I like about that whole thing? It's the fact that there is such a thing as a stressed millionaire and a happy millionaire. So I think that
Mhm.
would be an interesting topic to dive into. I don't know if we can do it now while we wait for Doc if he's coming on or oh there he is. But I would like
Doc,
us to talk about that.
Doc, are you back with us now? Hello, Doc, can you hear us?
Yeah, I think there's a lag still.
Yeah, because we've been trying to get a message through to Doc. Unfortunately, technology has not been our friend today when it comes to some of this. So I don't know, Wupeth, while you wait, I don't know if you have any other. I know that there's this issue on stress and less stress millionaires, but I
Mhm.
will be reading some of the notes that they have here from the CD. This is from. So I decided to also do a bit because we all do our research on these things
Mm,
to deal with some of this. And in terms of salt consumption and health related, the NHS, the National Health Service of the UK, actually gives out some guidelines on what to do about salt consumption to try and
mm,
help as we wait for Doc to talk about the science of hypertension. And what they
mm,
said was the do's are do try and add other flavors to your food, such as herbs, spices, black pepper, garlic, chili, and lemon juice instead of salt. So these are some simple tools. Remember how we always say? We always say it's the simplest things that you do every day that can result in a
habits.
much better outcome. Yeah, it's the daily
Mm,
habits, the atomic health habits. In fact, let's call these
mhm,
atomic health habits that people
mm,
can just make subtle changes. It's instead
mm,
of taking that extra fizzy drink, take a glass of water. It's that thing, just replacing a bad thing with a good thing, and you find your health outcomes change. So what they're saying is, one, flavor your chicken and your meat
mhm,
with herbs, spices, black pepper. Herbs, spices, black pepper, garlic, chili, and lemon juice. And they also say be careful of the spices that already have salt in them, because there's some that we use which are not
Chicken
organic
spice.
spices. Yeah,
Oh,
these pre-packed
that's
spices already
always
have
like
sodium. Yes.
loaded with with salt,
Yeah.
and it's with sugar, but it's always so loaded. Yeah.
So, ladies of the homes, you're the ones who make these. No, and I say this because 66% of household purchases are done by the women of Zambia. 66% of household financial decisions are made by Zambian women when it comes to daily and weekly groceries. That number goes as high as 75 to 80%. Okay, so when
We
we're
do
talking
that?
about the
Okay.
amount of when we're talking about the amount of salt getting into the
Are you
house,
saying we're killing people? Is that what
you
what are
need.
you trying to
I'm just.
say? Like,
I'm saying, as
what are you
life
telling us?
givers, you're responsible for keeping the salt regulated. Hmm? You're the ones
Like,
just
help
throwing
us.
salt.
Every
You're just throwing salt on all the food. You're not talking to us. You're busy looking the other way. You're even opening the bag and throwing it upside down. So
I'm saying, oops.
the other thing that the NSS
Yeah.
does say is limit the amount of salt you add when you're cooking. Try tasting your food, people. Please taste the food
Just like
before you
finish the
add the
food.
salt. And they're saying check the food labels of the products you're consuming. I think we've got Doc back one more time. Doc, I think we finally have you back.
Yes, Mr. Mtwale, I'm really, really sorry, and apologies to the viewers. I was just trying to move to a different network. I think maybe this network might perform better.
It is,
Yeah.
definitely.
We
So,
appreciate the effort too. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Please proceed, Doc. This is a very important topic as you're talking about the new lifestyle changes.
okay, so number one thing we need to put in consideration. I'm aware to the fact that I've been a very keen follower of your programs, Mr. Mtwale, and just how much passion you have attached to ensure that people realize the importance of having financial literacy, and I'm very excited that this part of uh, this part of the discussion covers the health aspect, because I do understand and believe that whatever strides an individual is making, it borders on health. No matter how much you can fight for your dreams, for ambition, it can be cut short because we have neglected the aspect of health. There's a saying that goes to say, we are only as strong as our weakest point. And when we look at what is our weakest point in whatever we do is health. If the health is curtailed, it is on rocks, everything else, the ambition, your priorities changes, your dreams changes. It affects so much. So when we look at some of these things we're discussing right now, number one, when we look at the reason why certain things are tagged to the rich, we need to understand clearly why things are attached to the rich. They are not attached to the rich by miraculously, no. But because when we look at some of the foods we're eating, they are easily accessed and bought by the people who can afford them. Somebody who is in the village will not afford the pizza. You went through a list of some of the foods that have got very high salt content. I'll be quick to mention that some of those foods you mentioned, they have high salt content such that just eating one meal of that, you have actually hit the maximum you're supposed to take in a day. Right now, I was just looking at, I was just looking at some of the foods. Let me give an example of crisps. Crisps, these snacks, puff, what do they call them? Those,
Corn puffs.
especially babies
Yeah.
like, yes, corn
Yeah.
puffs. Yes. When you look at that one, you find that it contains 0.98 grams of sodium, just one pack. So that's like 1 gram. So which means that is sodium, not salt. We need to understand,
To
because when we are looking
distinguish.
at these foods, we need to understand the difference. When we talk about salt, salt contains sodium and contains the chloride. No wonder the WHO is saying 5 grams. But when we talk about sodium itself, so sodium itself, we're talking about the milligrams, 2000, about 2300, 2000, somewhere there. Now, when you look at that one sachet, somebody just needs to eat those 2 sachets. That person has reached the maximum we're supposed to take in a day. But some of these foods, the biggest actually consumers now are our kids. Our kids are the biggest consumers of these foods. Now you wonder why even the young people, even kids, can even develop some of these diseases like hypertension, like diabetes, and all these others. Because the consumption of these foods actually are actually even in the young population. So what can we do about this problem? Number one, we can't change the world in a day, but with individual deliberate efforts, we can make a difference, one in our own lives and even on the people. For example, if I'm a parent at home, the lifestyle I've adopted, it is not just putting me at risk, it is actually putting and spelling the route which the young ones are going to follow henceforth. If I put salt at a certain level, the people in the household, they are going to be accustomed to that level of salt, and it's very difficult for them to come and appreciate the importance of putting in a low salt diet. Number one, it has to be a deliberate effort, intentional effort. Number two, are we taking note of when we go to the counter, we buy foods, are we looking at the content? How much sodium is contained? I want to go through, since you had mentioned earlier, some of the foods that we really need to look out for. Some of these canned foods, canned beef, meat, fish, they have high sodium content. If we have to eat those, we make sure we rinse them, because the salt usually is in the soup and is in the fluids that we're finding in those cans. Number two, we need to start gradually adapting to a low salt diet. I need to make it very clear to the viewers and to you, my host, that sodium is very important for your health. Sodium is very important for your impulse generation, for your activity, muscle movement, for your fluid level balance. It's important, but only a minimum amount is important for your operation. And you'll find that before we even talk about some of these outsourcing, you find that from natural sources, even foods, before you even cook them, you find that they have got a certain level of sodium naturally. So somebody will say, no, if I begin reducing the salt, what is going to happen to me? Can't I find something, some side effects to this? To begin with, it is very difficult actually to eat a low salt diet. So we can't be worried about not eating enough in the first place. We
Yes.
should be worried about what we are eating first now. So that is number one, ensuring that we start gradually. Mr. Mutwale, I can tell you that right now, for me, whenever I'm cooking the food, I've tried by all means to make sure I move to a very low salt diet. And I never thought it was possible until I started. Instead of putting salt when I'm cooking, there are other alternatives that an individual can use. Because the most important reason we use salt is because we want the test to come out. And also, but salt is not the only alternative to bring out the taste from the food. There are other alternatives: citrus fruits, garlic, spices. There are these other spices that will help you bring out the taste without using the salt, because the sodium intake is what we are worried about here. So, with adopting these measures, of course, the food will not taste the way it tastes with an overdosed, a salt overdosed meal, but the taste will come out. And according to available research, it takes about 3 weeks to 4 weeks for an individual to adapt to a new level of taste. Even the very food we deem to say it can't be eaten, it is tasteless, it becomes, you appreciate the taste with time. So our cultural intake has a role to play. The population, the level at which we entertain the salt as a role to play. My colleague who came from Sweden, she came and then tested the food we're eating at the restaurant. And then she said, what are the hypertension levels in this country? That was a question she only asked. Because she saw to say, this is way too much. But everyone in the house was just smiling, actually adding salt to the same meal. You see? So it is our population that needs to awaken to this fact.
Doc, just one other question. What is, and I think we've been talking about hypertension, but what is hypertension, and what's the science behind it? What's going on in my body that's causing hypertension or high BP? And what are some of the common signs and symptoms I should be looking out for? Because you talked about undetected hypertension. What should we be looking out for?
Yeah, and just to add on to that question, before Doc takes it, if you could just break it down very, very simply with no scientific language, so that we can understand. Because when you know what is happening in your body, then you're better able to regulate it. If I take too much salt, what is going on in my body? You had talked about this high levels of toxicity. The older we become, our cells are weakening, and that's the conversation we would like to dive into with that question.
Okay, it's so to begin with, hypertension or high BP, commonly known as BP in our setup, is basically the way the blood moves in our blood vessels. It's like in a pipe. It's a pipe theory. So it has got a certain pressure at which it moves, and a little bit of pressure helps it reach the far parts of the body to deliver this oxygen. But there comes a time when the pressure increases. So as the pressure starts to increase, we'll get back to that. As the pressure begins increasing, the body starts trying to adapt. The blood vessels senses to say there's something that is making me not to wake at the way I wake. So as they are pushing against these walls, the walls begin stiffening so that they handle that pressure. They begin stiffening and trying to add more mass so that it doesn't rupture and it's able to hold that pressure. So in stiffening, it loses that elasticity. It's now no longer able to stretch properly and to come back properly. So in trying to handle the pressure, it stiffens and makes it worse now. So that is in big blood vessels. Now for the small blood vessels, like in the eyes, in the brain, in the heart, in the kidneys, and some of the very important organs, you find that they begin rupturing because the pressure is too much. They can't handle that pressure. They can't remodel the way these other big blood vessels are trying to remodel. So this is now where we're seeing stroke coming in, because the vessels in the blood can't now handle that pressure. It's now causing this, what we are calling hemorrhagic stroke. So the blood vessels rupture in the brain, the brain tissues now can't be perfused, and then they begin dying. Somebody now can't sense
Perfused,
everything on one side.
perfused, doc. Perfused.
Yes,
Simplify.
yes. You see the English,
The English.
we have
We need to break it down.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so that is the problem that is with hypertension. So the brain is
Mm,
affected, the eyes are affected. Somebody now begins having visual problems. Somebody who has been fine, it just feels a heart attack. You've seen people drop
mm,
dead. This person was not sick. What happened?
mm,
So he just
mm,
dropped dead. This person didn't know that I had hypertension. The body was trying to handle that pressure for as much as it can, but it has given up. So you find that
mm,
the blood vessels in the heart, the coronary blood vessels, they begin narrowing and
mm,
failing to perfuse the heart, and then heart attack. The very same thing is happening to the kidneys.
mhm,
Somebody now having renal failures, failing to urinate, and the fluids now begin accumulating in the body. So these are very difficult conditions to really recover. They are treatable, they are managed, but they are difficult in the expense. One, you spend so much money. One, you spend so much time to handle some of these complications. And two, some of these complications, they're fatal. You can die from these complications. So no wonder it's very important. Number one, when we talk about prevention, about hypertension, we are not only talking about preventing somebody developing hypertension, but also somebody who is already hypertensive, preventing them from developing the complications of hypertension.
mm.
So it is a double-edged sword when
Interesting.
we talk about
Mm,
things to do with salt
mm,
and
mm.
also hypertension. Mr. Mutwale
Absolutely.
asked a very important question to say, what is the
Mm,
very likely and common symptom in
mm.
hypertension? I'll be quick to tell you to say hypertension, the commonest symptom is nothing, is no
Wow.
symptom at all.
Okay. So what do
So
we
unlike other
do?
diseases where once you Unlike other diseases like malaria and other diseases where once a parasite is in, you begin the fevers and stuff. For
Mm,
hypertension, for you to actually feel that you have a problem, it's when these end organ damages are now settling in. So most of the symptoms that are perceived to be as a result of hypertension are not actually symptoms, but they are complications of
of the
hypertension.
hypertension. Mm,
So the more important we are trying, no wonder it is referred, no wonder it is referred
the
uh,
silent killer.
as the silent killer disease. There's no other disease that is referred to as silent killer disease apart from hypertension because it can kill you silently. Yes. So it's a silent killer. Somebody can be okay. Somebody can be pushing his ambitions, his pursuits in career. And because that person never knew, never took consent to check their blood pressure, never took consent to take their medications if they have high BP, and they only maybe took when they felt they are not okay that day. That's when they take their medications. The following day, they are back to their normal routine. So the more important we are emphasizing this to say, how many lives can we save with this information? How many people who mean well to this country can we empower with this knowledge? Can we empower with this preventive information that can save their lives and keep them on the track of financial freedom, on the track of empowering the society, on the track of being breadwinners in their families?
Mm. That's so good. And just in line with that, what do we need to do then? Because like you have explained, it's a silent killer. We can't tell when, it's coming on. What are some of the lifestyle changes we need to adopt? And I'd like you to answer this question twofold. First of all, for people who do not have hypertension, because as we have been told, we don't know that, but also for someone who already is hypertensive. What are the changes for these two categories of people to either fight or prevent?
Hello, Doc. Did you manage to hear?
Did you get the question, doctor?
Hello, Doc. Can you hear us?
Dr. Chibwaya, can you hear us?
Number one, like we spoke earlier, number one, our salt diet. We spoke about a number of things. Mr. Mutwale actually highlighted a number of things.
Mm-hmm. We can hear
Yes,
you, Doc.
I got the question. Are you able to get me?
Yes, we are. We heard that you talked about the
Yes,
salt
I can hear
diet
you.
as the first thing. Yeah.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Okay,
That
I
was
think we
so
just.
stable. Yeah, I'm sure he'll be back. I think this connection is better than the last one. I'm sure
Yes.
he'll be.
So just to add to it, I think as he's recovering the link now,
Mm,
there is some things I'll get these from. Now, the reason I've gotten the US data here is because
mm,
the United States is the country that's battling hypertension and diabetes the worst. They've gotten to a point, I think in America, I think it's Black Americans, like 46% of them have got
yeah.
diabetes, and then yeah, yeah, and they're
Almost
dealing with
half the population.
yeah, it's actually at that point. So hopefully we've got Doc back now on some of the things.
Yeah,
So Doc,
we should
yeah.
do
So please
lifestyle
proceed, Doc,
changes.
with answering the question.
Mm,
Okay, so just to get to Abupe's question, when we talk of the measures, number one, like we mentioned earlier, we're talking about salt intake. It should be top on our agenda today. Salt intake. We can't emphasize more on this. Let's watch our salt intake. Number two, which I think even last week might have touched on, let us engage in exercises.
mm.
It is one important aspect we should never neglect. You know, when it comes to exercises, it ranks up there with oxygen and water.
Mhm.
You see, it ranks up
Yeah.
there. Actually, some research are actually showing that just 1 hour of exercising has a potential of increasing your lifespan by 3 hours.
1 for 3, that's a good ratio.
Of somebody engaging in exercises has a potential of increasing your lifespan. So it is a very wide, and people are still researching about it. But my emphasis and my point is exercises are very important. Most of our people think by exercising, because I don't have a car, I go on foot to work, then I do exercise. Quite all right.
Wait, is that okay? To be honest, I've also heard that, but I'm always like, are you serious right now? But okay. Please dive deep into that, Doc. Mm,
Yes. So when we are talking about exercises, we are talking about there are two things. There is one, not having a sedentary lifestyle, and there
What
is
is not
also
what is
one
a
engaging.
sedentary
A
lifestyle?
sedentary lifestyle is where your body is inactive. You see, you know that Wupe, you know that as you are there, if you stopped doing the work, you stopped engaging your body cells, they will die. They will die. You lose your mass, your body mass. You will lose. So in short, cells will begin just dying.
Hmm.
You understand? So
Yeah, I
when
hear you.
somebody, in short, the cells live and thrive on you engaging them, you making them wake, you making them sweat and breathe. They live and thrive on that. So the moment you keep them stagnant, you are exposing them to any small toxicity they can give in because they are not engaged. I think that is the basic, just trying to be as basic as we can so that we move together. So
I love that. Thank you.
when we talk about exercises, we're talking about exercises that engages your heart. You see, an exercise that will make you sweat, that will make your heart pump faster than normal, that will make the blood run in your body. Those are exercises we're trying to advocate because those you are pushing your body, you are pushing the cells, they feel engaged. Sometimes I wish cells could speak to us, but they do speak, we just don't listen.
Yeah, they do.
They do speak, we just don't
They
listen.
do.
But I'm totally sure they are happy when we do exercise. When you push them, when you feel like you're about to vomit blood, you're about to cough blood because you run, that is the body telling you to say, I've not been fit.
Yeah, that's so true.
So exercise is very important. Number 2, smoking. Quit smoking. Smoking is something that is very important that we need to handle and understand. It has got a very direct impact on our blood vessel.
Mm-hmm.
The same as salt. Smoking and salt, they are like brothers and sisters when it comes to hypertension.
Mm-hmm.
So we are talking about quitting smoking because smoking is not only predisposing you to things like hypertension, but also to cancers that are going to come along.
Doc,
Number four.
before I let you go on the smoking side, does this go for weed and packaged cigarettes? So as long as you're smoking, well, because you know what's popular now, weed, shishas, everything. Are you grouping in every kind of smoking together that people should quit?
So we are grouping all the types of smoke containing, because it's a substance that is contained in the smoke. You find that they have got a common factor, all these smokes, which is nicotine.
Mm-hmm.
You see, be it tobacco, be it shisha, you find that they have got this level that actually is able to clean to the blood vessels and begin causing remodeling and also damaging to these blood vessels. So when it comes to actually shishas, it is a research that was even my colleagues were conducting a research about the shishas. It is being found that most people are leaning towards shisha, thinking it's safer. Well, actually, it is much more actually dangerous than even the regular cigarette.
Hmm.
So it is not a way out, or if somebody takes shisha, doesn't mean that person doesn't smoke. No,
Yeah.
that person smokes, and it is something we're trying to advocate that they quit. If at all they are dependent on it, they try gradual. I like what Mr. Mtwale says to say, it is the small activities done repeatedly that amount to the bigger success. So it is
100%.
even in the health, it is the small. If you smoke 5 packs a day or 3 packs a day, you try to reduce it to 2. You try to reduce it to 1. You are winning. You are scoring. By the end of the day, you find you're now encouraging others to say, I did it. You can also do it.
Love that. Yes, so
So
we
that
had
is on
talked about
smoking.
salt. Yeah, salt, exercise, smoking.
And I will attest to that. Just to add, I will attest to that on a personal level. Okay, because
Yeah.
that's how I got off it, and I can tell you my lungs feel great.
Free. You've been
Wow.
They feel
liberated.
great. I used to try and exercise, and 10
And
minutes in,
you
I
can't
couldn't
breathe.
feel, I couldn't breathe properly. And I can tell you that, trust me, it's
Yeah.
just simple changes like that are very
Yeah.
important. So yes, I'm now 3 years off. I'm heading to my fourth year off now. So yes, I understand where
Love
Doc is
that for
coming from.
you. Yeah.
Salute.
Yeah. Yeah. So back to you, Doc. Salt diet, exercise, quitting smoking, lifestyle changes.
Yes, lifestyle changes. Number five
4.
is
Mm-hmm.
it's number
Yeah, yeah,
four.
yeah. Number 4. Mm-hmm.
Yes, alcohol. Reduce the intake of alcohol. If possible, quit.
Yeah.
It is well
People are
put,
going
right?
to scream. Yes. So what
Yes.
is, if someone is not willing to let it go, what's the minimum when it comes to alcohol?
So when it comes to alcohol, there is a whole lot of calculations that are there to say because it depends with the types of beers. Sorry, with the type of alcohol, because different beverages contain different percentages of alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, different percentages of alcohol. But I think I'll share something with even Mr. Mtwale so that they can even share with the F3 Army on some of the minimum that as an individual can take when it comes to alcohol, as it is something, it's about lifestyle modification. And when we talk about the amount of alcohol, we talk about wines, the percentage, how much are they containing? How many pints can you take in a day? But in general, due to time, I can just put it to say reduction should be the goal. Reduction should be the goal. But the ultimate goal, if somebody can manage, is ultimately quitting.
Just let it go. Yeah, because I mean, obviously, I can see where you're
Another one
coming
I
from.
can
Because if
attest
you
to.
don't know, yeah,
Another one.
because if you already don't know, yeah, I mean, if you don't know that you're hypertensive, right? And then you're just
Um,
drinking and drinking, it's suicide. So,
mhm.
which is
let
why
me
I
let me
can
let
see
me let me
where,
just also add to this. Just even to what Doc is saying, there's a lifestyle that comes with drinking and smoking. I think people don't understand. You start, let's say, because let's be honest, people, drinking and smoking comes with things like clubbing. Okay, this is a lifestyle people have altogether package. You'll stumble out of an establishment at 3 in the morning or 2 in the morning, whatever time you've gone out, and you're gonna grab the quickest meal you can because you're not in a state to go and prepare food. If you're drinking and
mm,
smoking and having a lifestyle that's attached to it, you're probably also not eating home prepared food. You're eating fast prepared or processed foods a lot. You're eating snacks and all sorts of things. And so you're kind of compounding the alcohol, the smoking, and the processed foods together. So everything Doc is mentioning is actually almost like it, so you're not, if you're drinking and smoking, you are not exercising. I can tell you that you are not. Okay, so on top of that, so even your blood flow is obviously having issues. And then two, you're eating highly processed and highly salted foods, probably because there's
mm,
something that also happens when people consume alcohol, like beer, for example. Your tongue starts
taste.
to crave salt.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
Yeah.
craving that balances out with it. That's why people have associated beer with salty sausage, okay, and
yeah.
salty meats and all sorts of things. So everything Doc is mentioning here actually comes as a pre-packaged lifestyle.
Package.
So if you
Yeah.
exit, let's say, the alcohol and cigarette lifestyle, you'll actually notice that a lot of these other things easily
Start to
melt
fall
away.
into
At the
place.
core is the
Yeah,
lifestyle.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love that. Really good.
Excellent put. Excellent put.
Mm, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So back to
So
you,
Yes,
it's
Doc.
sorry, Doc.
Yeah, on yeah.
yeah. So that is those are some of the things, but more importantly,
Uh, Hopefully, we haven't lost him again. But we'll try
Hopefully,
and
because I really want to get into the questions. I think that there are some really good questions in the comment section that I think will speak
yeah.
to a lot of the conversation tonight.
Yeah, no, we'll have the rest of those. Sorry, and to all the viewers, the reason why I think we've extended today's broadcast is simply because of the technical issues we've been
Agreed.
having, and also how
Yeah.
important this conversation is. So we have kind of given it a little bit of an elastic period. So for those of you who are joining us, we're still going to have quite a bit of time because of it. So I was alluding to this to say there's a joint lifestyle that comes with all of
Mm,
this. That if
mhm,
you there's and this is why I like the Power to Change book, Craig Rochelle. This is
mm,
why I like that book, because he says you if you want to be healthy, you must identify as a temple. You must identify yourself as a
so
temple of
good.
the Lord. Not
Yeah.
not just say I want to look better or anything. Say to yourself, I'm a temple of the Lord, and think about all those foods you're throwing in your body. And this is the visual that I had that helped me start looking at food a little bit differently. Was he said,
Mm,
imagine somebody just takes a shovel of trash and just throws it into the middle of a church. That's the visual that came into my mind. So you're sitting in the middle of church service, and a garbage collector just comes and just
mm,
heaves a pile of trash in the middle of church. That's what shoveling, that's why they call it junk food. Okay, a
yeah.
lot of it comes with a junk food diet, because there's
Mm,
a disrespect to yourself as a temple, and possibly we're not seeing
mm,
ourselves as a temple. Okay, so I
mm,
understand all these things that he's mentioning are the subtle day to day changes that we can make in our lives to make sure that we're not becoming these engines of stress and also straining
mm.
ourselves. So I think a lot of it, and I also would like to come to him about the things of even just getting checkups, even the thing of
Yes,
getting
so
regular
important.
checkups, because I'm starting to think hypertension is probably something that takes out. Well, I always say that the average Zambian woman is going to outlive the average Zambian man by 8 years. So that's something
Yep.
that we all have to bear in mind.
Mm.
The I don't know, Whoopi, are you still there?
I'm
Yeah. So
here.
yeah,
Can you hear me? Yeah,
I
yeah.
was saying the average. Yeah, I can hear you. The average Zambian woman is going to outlive the average Zambian man by 8 years. And the reason, one of the simplest changes is that one, men consume 80% of the alcohol in the country, men consume 75% of the cigarettes in the country, men go for checkups. We don't go for checkups, we go for treatment. Women go for regular checkups. So just
Yeah.
these three things. And then also men consume fast food at much higher rates. We eat unprepared
Mm.
foods at much higher rates. So we eat processed and fast foods at much higher rates, while women tend to cook for themselves
Cook.
at much higher
Yeah.
rates. So
Mm.
just these subtle things of cooking for yourself, smoking less, drinking less. I'm in Muya's fitness group, and what do we find? 90% of the people in there are women. So already
Mm.
exercising more, checking
It's not.
themselves up more, eating more prepared, eating food that they prepare themselves, smoking less, drinking less. Just these five things I can
Makes
point
a
out
world of
seem to have
difference.
added 8 years to the average Zambian woman's life.
Mm. That's so good. You know what I've been thinking
So I
also,
think,
right? Yeah, we have Doc back, yeah? Wow, he logs
see?
on. A lot of it has to do also, for me, every time I think about a situation, Munyumba, I'm always thinking, where is your head at? You know, when you're constantly at the club, when you are downing so much alcohol, when you are smoking so much, when you're eating so many fast foods regularly, where is your head at? That's where I always begin. I question what I'm thinking, I'm questioning what I am believing, and limiting beliefs are such a real thing. Why are we eating so much processed foods? There's a belief that that is either more cool, or if I eat that, then, I belong to a better society, right? And then we're killing ourselves. So I always begin with the mindset: where am I? How am I thinking about this food? And it's not that anything, look, when we think about, for instance, the science behind what the doctor has explained this evening, yeah, we don't know that, but we know if I take too much salt, it will kill me. No one needs to tell you that. We know that. We're told that all the time. Take too much sugar, it will kill you. If you don't exercise, it's not good for you, right? We know this, but the question is, where are you in your mind? And why is it that even when you know that something is not good for you still pursue it? So I always go back to, what are the limiting beliefs? Where have you come from? What are you thinking? Did you come from a place where food was scarce? And now you're like, now that I have seen it, I'm going to eat it. I used to have a lecturer in university who was obese, but he came to class with, like, that big box of Hungry Lion, and he had two Cokes. And I'm like, you're killing yourself. Why are you doing that? And for him, it was
Was he married or
women.
single?
He was married. He was married with kids. It wasn't on us. This one was not on us. It was his own thing. And there's books I've read where, like, there's this guy, he grew up in poverty, and then he now has money, and he believes, I can eat everything I thought I could never eat as a child. And even though we do not care to acknowledge it, a lot of the things and the decisions we make come from the way we perceive something, the history we have, and we have to resolve some of those things at a mental level before we start to force things. It's like that conversation we had on discipline. Sometimes it's a spirit, most of the times it's a spiritual thing, it's an inner thing that we need to work on before it flows onto the outside. So just the thinking behind it for me is a big deal.
And you know what? I'll tell you, a lot of it has to do with that, and hopefully we have Doc back. As we said, we're
Mm-hmm.
stretching this out,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of it, I'll tell you my experience,
Mm-hmm.
um, going from single to married helped,
Mm-hmm.
because I've
Yeah.
noticed women are very conscious about what their husbands eat. Women
Yeah,
are
yeah, that's
very
true.
conscious about what men eat.
Yeah.
And as Doc has alluded to, 70% of your salt intake is going to come from your processed foods. So I remember the first
Mm-hmm.
time when, Lord rest his soul, I always miss out on this, Mlenga and I were
Mm-hmm.
dating.
Yeah.
And I was at work, and she's like, and I called her because I called her every day whenever I got to work, and she was like, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just walking to the shop here," and I used to, with my friend, grab an egg sandwich, which already had layers of salt on it and extra,
And
and
oil.
she flipped. So this is something I was already doing for a long time, and she
It's
flipped.
like
So what are you doing? I'm like, no, I'm just having a salt. What? You didn't have breakfast? You don't carry breakfast? What's going on? So now she's going,
making me
wow.
look bad.
I'm thinking, what's happening here? And you know, this is the one thing she constantly harped about. Stop
Yeah.
eating processed food. I used to eat a lot of processed food when I was single. A
Mm.
lot, okay? When I was,
Yeah.
and it was 8 years of having a woman in my life that actually drove
Yeah.
me to start making sure food was not processed, it was prepared. That
Yeah.
transition, and she said, look, if you're going to be a responsible husband, you're going to need to start eating prepared food,
Food. You're
okay?
not going to leave
Because
me alone. Yeah.
exactly, granted, she's the one who's left me alone now, but
We'll take it up with her.
I'll take it
One
up with her
day
in our
we will.
afterlife.
Like, what was
But
that about? Yeah. We'll go
but you
there
know,
with her.
the truth is that, and this is why they say, ironically, married men, in as much as men like to call women stress, married men actually
Yeah.
live longer than single men. It's actually
Yeah, that's
because of
true.
all these.
Statistically. Yeah.
Yeah. Statistically, married men outlive single men because women infuse into the life of a married man carrying prepared lunches. They actually demand certain
Mhm.
things. I know today we're having the rise of this, yeah, you ain't preparing nothing lifestyle. But even
Yeah.
though just the presence of a woman in the home leads to more food preparation, more dinner preparation, not stopping over somewhere when you're single and grabbing a shawarma and a coke, and then that's your dinner when you get home. Somebody at home is
Mm.
demanding that food is prepared, and they're demanding it's
Yeah.
hand prepared and not as much fast food
Mm.
consumption. All these things starting to boil up together does mean that the presence of a woman in life does seem to at least bring in better
Enhance
certain
your
types of
health.
habits. More
Yeah.
women complain about men, you need to cut down drinking. You think if I go
Mm.
home bombed, I'm gonna irritate my wife. So here's a little thing that's actually helping you tone down on
And
drinking.
peace over happiness, right?
Women are not comfortable with smoking as much. So therefore, at the end of the day, you can't smoke as much when you're married. So you can't
Yeah.
drink as much when you're married. You can't smoke as much when you're married, and you're also consuming more prepared rather than processed food. Just
Mm.
these three changes to the lifestyle of a
Mm.
married man is actually statistically and potentially, let me not say actually, but it's potentially shifting married men to live longer
Yeah.
than unmarried men. So you
Yeah.
you may start to see that it's these subtle identity changes. As we talked about, we're talking
Mm,
about identity changes. And
mm,
I want to add to something that you said, Lupe, is that
mm,
uh, you know when you know these things are bad for you, and the only
mhm,
reason a person does things that are bad for them is when they immediately devalue themselves. The only
mm,
reason you will
agree.
put poison in yourself is if you know you if you are under if one is if you're ignorant, but most of the
Mm,
time you know this information. So you already
mhm,
know and you're ignoring it. The second reason is because you undervalue yourself. You don't
mm,
see, that's why I said if you see yourself as a temple and you see what you're doing to the temple, I'll ask a person this
mm.
question. Are you comfortable littering inside the church? Like in the
Oh
middle of a
no,
service, would you just eat, and then just, first of all, would you even eat in church?
would never be me.
So now the pastor is saying your body is a temple. How come you
Yeah.
respect the physical temple building, but you don't
Mm.
respect your
Which you can just
own temple
clean.
building?
Yeah.
Exactly. So if you can keep a physical temple clean, why are you struggling to keep your own temple clean? Which is
Mm,
a more important temple, by the way. It's actually much more
mm,
important than that physical building that you're going to. So potentially, these are just the other things that we can. As obviously as we wait, and when Doc returns, we will just now start to give the questions if we can get
yeah.
back to him. But here are some
Yeah.
of the. I was
Sorry,
looking
William,
at
but
some of the
before we leave that
lifestyle changes.
conversation, yeah, before we get
Yeah,
into the technical of it, I was also thinking about something you talked about, how your wife played an important role in showing you the error of your ways with food, right? And it just speaks also to the power of community. Who are you surrounded by? It's like when you were giving
yeah.
us the example of your own testimony about how when you went to the club, when it's difficult. I don't know. Do people go to the club alone? I don't think so, because it's like it's about hyping
You've
each
got
other.
problems if you're doing
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it's similar
with
with these
deeper
kinds of
problems.
things. Yeah, and I think it's just the power of community, even in the choice of the person you marry, who you're spending time with. That goes a long way too. Welcome back, Dr. Chibwaya.
Doc, I think we just for the essence of time, hopefully you're
Mm,
back with us. We have some questions for you. I hope, are you able to hear
mm.
us?
Thank you very much. I don't know if I'm.
Yes.
Mhm.
So we have a question here from Mwila Chate, who's saying, for how long should somebody be on hypertension drugs? Is it advisable for somebody to change their BP drugs? Like, for example, this sounds like somebody using. So amlodipine,
Amlodipine.
5 milligrams, and primodil. So this sounds like somebody who's really dealing with it,
Who's
or has
really on the
somebody who's
drugs?
actually
Yeah.
or actually has
Yeah.
somebody they're actually purchasing for. Can you take different drugs like almodecin, Telma
Mm,
H, and other BP drugs? So they're asking how long should somebody be on BP medication? And unfortunately, yeah, we've
mm.
lost the doc there. So these are, by the way, people, if you ask these questions, what we will do, since we've had some technical issues, is that
Yeah.
what we will do is
Let's have
we'll
him
ask the doc
answer.
if he can have video answers to some of these, or just a few recorded answers to some of these, and then we'll package them for you and then present them to you all, just for the
Yeah.
presence of this. So please, if you're watching, continue to ask your questions, and I'll just
Mm,
show some of the other questions that someone has asked. Doctor, why do we give aspirin and chlorogel 75 milligrams to BP hypertension patients as their treatment? As I said, these are important questions to ask the doc.
yeah.
Other questions that we've got here from Bricious Wale, who has said, nice topic, guys, very educative. Just wish a lot of Zambians can be paying attention to these kind of programs
Mm,
for us to have a continuity and benefit from the works of our hands long enough. Yes.
mm.
People, you must,
Agreed.
information is the first thing.
Share this information. Yeah, it's not,
Please.
yeah, like share this information because we have to save lives. It's just not to look
And then
cute and talk, but it's to help people. Yeah.
Andrew Mbele said, Doc, there are situations where people smoke. How does this affect the passive smoker? Like, are you are just walking then every time you have to meet somebody who smokes, what do you do? Those are tough questions, but we
Yeah,
will
but they
handle
say it's more hectic for us who are non-smokers. But yeah, I'd like to hear the doctor
it.
speak about that.
And Doc, what advice what advice, sorry, Doc, what is advice on how we should handle food at workshops? My
Remember, we had this
goodness.
conversation last week because,
Yeah,
like, yes,
yeah.
like, guys, they tried to kill me.
No, no, but it's true. I think what people don't
Yeah.
understand is it's the tiny changes. It's
Mm,
being able to go to a workshop and say, I'm not going to consume this. It's having the discipline to say, just because it's available,
I was
that
just
doesn't mean
gonna
I have
say,
to do
I
it.
have to eat it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can
what
go
I
to a
do.
workshop and
Hmm,
yeah, sorry, yeah. Continue. You were about to say?
yeah. Yeah, so what I do is I I tell myself if I won't have a tea break and I feel like I can carry because I have Malachi at home, so I'll perhaps pack a few scones for him instead of eating it a few times. I'll bring that for him, and I don't have to eat it. And I was going to say they should go back on our conversation on discipline because I think that was a really, really good conversation and can help some of these. Yeah.
No, it's true. So
Mm,
just to read off some of these things to everybody, we did discuss some of these with Doc, so he was going to talk
mm,
about these, the do's and don'ts to help. And I think let's talk
mhm,
now about what are these subtle changes to lifestyles. He did say. So I
mm,
said, try adding flavor to your food, herbs,
mhm,
spices, lemon juice, pepper, garlic, chili. If you can now start to have spices, I know people will say, but salt is cheap. Salt is 5 kwacha. Spices are 20, 30. I'm like, sure, but
mhm.
BP medication is much more expensive than spices.
Ooh,
So
even that
perhaps
renal
maybe
failure thing. Ha.
and I was talking to a friend. There was a guy in Muya's fitness group who was actually talking to us about dialysis, and he talked not
That's
only about the
expensive.
cost of dialysis. No, he was
Mm.
talking about the cost only. He said dialysis
Even the
requires
stress.
you to go 3 times a week and to sit with tubes inside your
Mm-hmm.
body 4 hours every
Mm.
single time. So imagine sacrificing 4 hours, and then after that dialysis process, you're also exhausted.
Yeah,
So
it's
these
very
are some of the
stressful on the
things.
body.
Doc, hopefully we have you back for some of the questions that have been posed here. Doc, if you're able to unmute your microphone. So as we wait for Doc to prepare himself, so they've also talked about limiting salt in meals. That's actually
Mm-hmm.
something that also has been said. Limit of salt. Doc, if you can once again, please unmute your microphone. Saying limit the amount of salt that you add in meals. In fact, he was talking about not even adding salt when cooking. Use different spices. Check
Yeah.
the labels of the products you eat. Make sure
Mm.
you actually look for low sodium and be careful of the sodium amounts inside your food. Try low salt or reduced salt sauces. They're actually saying watch out for the sauces, your tomato sauces, your
Mm.
mustard sauces. These
Barbecue.
sauces that we
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
add, barbecue, what's it, salad dressing. For those of us who think we're being healthy, then we throw in these
But
heavy salt salad dressings.
look, there's vegetables in there.
Oh,
My
you've
nephew.
been warned.
Now that you have said that, because I was telling Malaka, like I'll be talking to the doctor and Munyumba and I will be talking and having this conversation, and he's like, "So, mommy," because we bought Hungry Lion, we're late from church, and he's like, "So, if I boil the chicken, and no, if I put the chicken in a chicken salad, does that mean the salt will reduce?" And I'm like, "No, pal,
This thing of
that's not how it works."
negotiating.
And he
This
negotiates. Yo,
no, it's
yeah.
you negotiate until you're in hospital. Then you're
I'm telling you.
negotiating for your life. There's a
The
difference.
next one. Yeah, and he's like, "So, mommy, what if I boil it? Maybe I should boil it, and then then it won't have the taste. Then what's the point?" But yeah, yeah,
You
it's
know, the truth
hilarious.
is,
I
I
just thought
think
it's
I think we
hilarious.
always have to remember that what the Bible says, God will not be
Mhm.
mocked.
No, you will
You reap
not.
what you sow.
You
And he said,
will.
you're mocking him if you're trying to sow something different to what you're going to reap.
Going to read.
If you're trying to say, no,
Yeah,
let me sneak around the junk food line, and then still,
yeah,
the truth is it's junk food.
yeah. At
What
the
else
end of
they've
the
also
day.
said here is eat healthier
Yeah.
snacks,
Mm-hmm.
fruits, vegetable sticks, unsalted nuts. People are
Mm-hmm.
the ground nuts we eat. doused in salt, people,
So,
doused.
oh,
So can we
yeah.
please calm down
Let's
on the
relax a
salt?
little. Yeah.
Because even the pre-packed nuts that we eat, those ones,
Mm.
you can even see the salt crystals still on it.
Even
This
the
is
unsalted ones are salted, to be fair. It's like,
things are salted.
yeah.
They're saying also be aware of dissolved painkillers as well. Those also have, and they're saying try not to use too much sauces that can be high in salt, such as soy sauce, gravy, ketchup, or in other words, tomato sauce, mustard, mayonnaise, and brown sauce. Please pay attention to those and do not put salt on your dining table.
Man,
Remove the salt from your dining table. It makes you
should
use
we
it
just stop
less. Just
eating,
that
man?
simple.
Like, what's going on? What? How no soy sauce? How no mayo?
People
Like,
in the Bible
how?
lived long
Make it
because
make sense.
they ate properly. Then just other things that were
Yeah.
said in the what's it called? Other things that were said in the United States Department of the United States Food and Drug Agency, the FDA, says read nutritional labels very carefully and make sure you do not exceed
Mhm.
2,300 milligrams of sodium. I saw a pack of is it Papa's chips, and I was reading the
Mhm.
nutrition label yesterday, and
Mm.
it said
Mm.
one serving, I think, was about 200. So, in other words, just a 120-gram pack already is
Mm.
about, I think, if I'm correct, about 800 milligrams of sodium. So, already a third
Okay.
of your total sodium budget is already,
Is already
so,
wiped in
it's
one
gone.
pack.
It's just that
Yeah.
tiny pack, which you can finish in just a 5, 6 minute, gone. Sodium budget gone.
Gone.
Sorry, one third
Yeah.
of it already
Yeah.
gone. They're
Yeah.
saying add flavor without sodium. Look for no sodium flavor. Buy your fruits and buy your things fresh. In other words, fresh meat,
Mm.
fresh poultry, fresh anything. Try and buy it as fresh as you can. Watch your veggies.
Mm.
If you buy frozen veggies, you find that inside that preservation there. If you buy frozen vegetables
Yeah.
inside the preservatives there,
Yeah.
you find a lot. He talked about
Speaking of
rinse
veggies,
and
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of veggies, it's like what we're talking about, how it's important. I was telling you about how Moses always has like a garden. We always have something growing, and that really helps. I'm not a big fan of frozen vegetables, even just from the way they taste. So, mm,
Doc,
yeah.
I don't know if we can have you back just for these final 15 minutes. We have
Mm,
some questions for you. I don't know if you're still with us.
mm,
Okay,
yeah. Looks like it's not working.
Doc, I don't know if you're still with us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, there we go.
Yes, I'm
Hello.
able to get you.
Oh, there we go.
Fantastic. So we had a question about hypertension drugs from one of our viewers here who was asking about how long should someone be utilizing hypertension drugs,
Yes,
and they
I'm
were
able to
very
get you.
specific. Yeah, they were saying, is it advisable for a person to change their hypertension drugs, and how long should they be using hypertension drugs? Okay, so I think just for the management of time, and unfortunately, I think we will
Yeah.
then get
I think we
Doc
can
to
just
come and
take the
just
questions later. Hmm.
yeah, we'll give
Yeah.
Doc the
We
questions a
can
bit
wrap it.
later. Unfortunately,
Mm,
due to the things, but I think at the end of the day, people, and
yeah.
just to wind up here, it is that a lot of it has to do with monitoring lifestyle. I've actually noted, Wupe, this is for me,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm on a journey. I've been on a journey for a couple of years, but this year I think is where I've taken it like super seriously. And I've been
Mm-hmm.
on a journey where I've decided I'm going to get back to how I looked when I was 19. And I told
Mm-hmm.
myself that when I was 19, I used to wake up every morning and I used to run every morning. I would work out 3 times a day. I played rugby actively and I watched what I ate. I was doing that very carefully and I was very meticulous. I had a lot of things that were going on. I was a teenager, yes, but I was very specific about that. And that was the greatest shape I've ever been in. 18,
Mm-hmm.
19 was the greatest shape
Mm-hmm.
I've ever been in. And I told myself I've got a journey to get back there, and in fact, even look better. So that's been because I got to my worst in 2020. That was my worst,
Mm-hmm.
where I was like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
goodness, what's happened here? And I
Mm.
decided that I'm gonna turn back the hands of time 15 years and fight back, and now start to get back what I used to look like.
Mm.
I'm on that journey now, and part of what I've said to myself, I've found out, is it's the simple changes. It's
Mhm.
before I eat a meal, I have to
Mhm.
take a neem supplement. I have to take a spoon of neem leaf, that bitter leaf that you put in a glass of water and you drink it. I have to take a neem supplement, husks, to help regulate my digestive system. I also I've told myself that I have to get to the 3 to 4 liters of water per day. And part of what I do is, before I eat anything, I must drink 500 milliliters of water. Like, that's a rule now
Mm.
for me. I'm not allowed to enjoy anything without going through 500 milliliters of water when I
The
wake up.
water.
So what I've noticed is, it's the subtle changes of 1 hour of exercise a day, 3 to 4 liters of water. Sugar, I've just eradicated it. I just said I'm not taking another spoon of added sugar in my life. Yes,
Mhm.
there's certain things maybe I'll snack here and there, but even snacks,
Mhm.
I've limited them to 1 day a week. And I've just
Mhm.
said I'm just going to have to start consuming good standard food regularly through my
Mm.
week. I've now
Mm.
become aware of salt, so I have to now start
Mhm.
looking at. I've
Working
actually
on
now
that.
started taking a spoon with me and saying, right, I have to measure. I just put the salt on the tip of a
The
spoon and
tip
shake
of
it, and if it runs out, that's life. So I
yeah.
start eating salt by pinches, and not by, you're looking this way and then that's when you're adding. That's what we're trying to
Yeah.
get rid of. So I've noticed that even things like he's talking about, of adding lemon, spice, and these things, and not these pre-packed, but the natural spices, the organic ones, just
Mhm.
doing these things can make the biggest change if they're turned into a lifestyle. And I think this
Mhm.
is what people need to understand. If you want to live long enough to enjoy
Mm.
your wealth, you went to
Mm.
school for 4 years and more.
Mm.
You
Mhm.
work 8 hours a day or more.
Mm.
Okay, some of you have to work on weekends. Some of you have to take your work home. You have sacrificed so much of your
Mm.
life. Why do you want to throw it away at the
Mm.
end? Okay, why do you
Mhm.
want everything you've worked for? Because you fought for this financial freedom. Why do you
Mhm.
want your financial freedom to now be curtailed by your health freedom? Because now
Mm.
the health that you have is going to take away everything that you've worked for your life. Everything in your life sits on this tectonic plate. But I noticed that health
Mm.
was the thing it's like you disrespected the most, because
Yeah.
food is the thing. And I think I like what you're talking about of where's your head. I just wanted to wind up on there, is
Mm.
that I was finding comfort in food. Okay, I
Mhm.
was finding I needed my food to be rich, to be strong tasting, everything, because it's where I found my pleasure, my enjoyment, my comfort. It's where
Mm.
my
Mm.
life was. It's where life was coming from.
Mm.
But it's like you have to switch and start saying, okay, where else do I get that spiritual zing from, that hit?
Mm.
If I don't get it, so it's and now people don't want to admit this, but there's a lot of emotions attached to our food. There's a lot. There's
Mhm.
nostalgia, there's peace, there's comfort. We derive everything. We get our excitement from food, we get status from food. Like you was talking about,
Mm.
maybe now that you can afford these, you were saying now that you can afford these things, now I've got status. I don't eat, you people were eating street nuts, now I'm eating jiggies and all these
I
things. And
don't eat impwa.
yeah, I don't eat this. What's this stuff you eat? Me, I live like this. It's because just the food we eat, we attach. You
Mm.
people eat that. Me, I've got these brands. Look at all these sauces I can afford. Look at all these things
Yeah.
I can afford.
Yeah.
When it's a lot of that, there's a lot more emotion attached to the way we
Attached
eat
to it.
food. That's actually
Mm.
affecting the ability when a doctor comes in front of you and says, you've got to stop all this processed food. You're going for pizza every second day, third day. You're just lining up for pizza every time because now you can afford it and you're chomping away at it.
Mm.
You've got to stop because it's coming
Mm.
through your pizza, it's coming through your burgers, it's coming through your fried chicken, it's coming through all these things. Like all the salt you're eating is coming, 70-80% of it is coming through this processed stuff you're eating. And
Mm.
you've got to let it go. Now you can't let it
Mm.
go because there's emotional attachments to it.
Attached
You
to it.
can't
Mhm.
because you've defined your life by affording that stuff. And
Yeah.
now you don't understand that what you are identifying with, it always goes back to your identity. it's poisoning you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the
I'm
first
killing you
step is
ultimately.
information. The
Mm-hmm.
first step is information. Once you are informed about something, the next step is incentivization. Once you are informed and you can incentivize and you are incentivized to do it. So I've given you the visual. The third step is implementation. So
Mm-hmm.
once you are informed, incentivized, and then you
Incentivize,
implement,
implement.
I'm starting to feel a lot differently. Like
Mm-hmm.
I said, I used to smoke. That stuff's gone. Drinking,
Mm-hmm.
occasionally, but stuff's gone. Like I can go. I've gone from this. I was a weekend warrior. Now it's months can go by. Okay,
Yeah.
months can go. So as I said, as I don't know if you've got any more thoughts.
Oh
Yeah, we've got
no.
Doc probably back. Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't even want to add to that because I think that's a good wrap up with the thinking behind it. And I like that, you are a living testimony of what we're talking about today. And I'm excited to be part of this journey, watch you get to where you are, and looking forward to seeing you get there. And just many thanks to Dr. Chiwaya for joining us tonight and especially powering through the crazy of the network. And means so much to me, and I'm sure to you as well. And I'm truly grateful for that.
Thank you very much. And
Mm,
Doc,
mm,
if you can hear us, and which we will make sure
yeah,
that we package some of the questions to you, send them forward to
yeah,
you, and we'd like to get some of these so that we can share them on our platforms and also
mm,
share them even through our network as well. And please,
mm,
Doc, feel free to come back if you can or cannot. Yes,
mm,
please feel free to come back at another time as well because we'd love to have you here because our financial
yeah,
freedom fighters journey is to make sure that people have a long and prosperous life. We want you to, as I think it was the movie
mm,
Star Trek, where it says
yeah.
live long and prosper.
Mm.
That's
Live
my
long and
that's my
prosper.
statement.
That's the goal. Love that. Thank you so much for being
That's
an
my statement
amazing
to
host.
everyone.
It's been good. It's always a good time. I'm looking forward to next week's conversation.
Yes, please tune in for next week. We'll be hosting Kim Otterby from Umoyo to talk about the organic lifestyle. Okay, so
Whoop, whoop.
please tune in. You really want to understand that one
Yeah.
because you want to talk about how to now bring organics into your
To
lifestyle.
your life.
Have a
Yeah.
wonderful day
We're
and
making
God
it
bless.
practical. Good night.